Hope everybody's having a good Saturday morning, recovering from a fantastic Friday night. It seemed like everybody had an awesome time. My name is Travis. I do a show called Outkick the Coverage, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports Radio nationwide, 250 AM FM stations, as well as Sirius XM Channel 83. I also have done a lot of television work for Fox Sports over the past several years, and I run a website 6 years old called Outkick the Coverage, and we write and have fun there on a daily basis. And I thought we would start off kind of a surprise for everybody. I have covered this guy for years. He's one of the most entertaining and exhilarating players that I've ever seen on the field in college, in the NFL, everywhere that he played. And I want to call him up. If he's back in the back of the room now, he'll come up and hang out with us for a little bit. Johnny Manziel. So everybody give a hand to Johnny. Thanks for coming on, man. What's up? So, first question everybody's got, and I'm sure you get asked this all the time. Where do you keep the Heisman Trophy?
It actually stays with my family. I had it my time in Cleveland and kept it around in the basement when all the guys would come down for the most part. But it's a heavy motherfucker. It's no joke to really move that thing around. So,
you obviously have. I want to start back with your career because you're like the Friday Night Lights high school football legend. When did you realize? I was doing research on your high school career. You played wide receiver your freshman and sophomore year, I think. When did you realize that you could be a really good quarterback? Was there a game where you're like, holy shit, I'm good at this? Like almost like a Matrix moment where you recognize that the game kind of moved at a different speed for you than other people? Or did it just kind of slowly happen?
It kind of slowly happened. I think my senior year, I didn't have any offers until my senior year. So I wasn't one of those guys that had a ton of offers, freshman, sophomore, 16-year-old guy getting any offers like that. For the most part, it came slowly, and I got a chance to start my senior year. We were rednecks from a small town outside of San Antonio, and we had a really good year. We only lost one game that entire year, and it was to defending state champion, and that was when things really started to slow down. And like my third game into the season, I had a really good game. I think we threw the ball like 85 times in one game, and A&M ended up being there. And I was originally committed to go play for Chip Kelly in Oregon. It was just a little far away, and I went in state, and just ended up staying in state and going to Texas A&M.
How did Chip Kelly find you?
That's a random question. I think some people in San Antonio that we had played the year before were talking and saying, hey, you need to go see this kid outside of San Antonio. It's worth the drive. And he was really one of the only teams other than small schools that really came out and saw me. There's
a rumor and report, I've never heard you talk about it, that you and Marcus Mariota had like a workout together on Oregon's campus.
Yeah, we did.
Is that true? What was that like? I heard it was electric, that both of you guys were just unstoppable. What was that experience like from your perspective? Isn't it true?
Well, it was my junior year. I got an offer from Stanford, and we went to Stanford and then drove up to Oregon because they didn't give an official visit or anything like that. So we paid for our way to go up there, and I remember getting in line with this guy and, getting ready to work out and looking at this guy, and he's probably like 6'3" at the time in high school. And I look up at him, and I'm like, "You're gonna be the receiver for today, huh?" He's like, "No, I play quarterback." And then
you're like, "Uh-oh."
I was like, "Oh shit, man! I'm like 5'10". I'm just this little pipsqueak."
Yeah.
But really nice kid. From that time, I kept in touch with him and was able to, keep a relationship with him. They ended up having 3 quarterbacks commit all at the same time to go to Oregon. So it was me and him committed at the same time for a little bit of time, but. That was the first time we ever met.
That's an incredible job by Chip Kelly because he got 2 Heisman Trophy winners committed in the same class, right?
Yeah, both 3-star guys. Not like we were both
3-star guys that everybody
ranked.
else wasn't looking for. And I think a lot of times because you kind of exploded on the national scene, people think you were a higher level recruit than you were. But you're a 3-star guy who had to fight your way into getting offers.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you want to go to Texas?
I did. That was originally where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Texas more than anything.
Did they recruit you at all?
A little bit to play safety.
To play safety?
Yeah, to play safety.
So did you ever say to them, like, hey, I'm pretty good at quarterback. Have you guys looked at my film?
Yeah, they had
3,000 yards.
They had 2 quarterbacks already committed, and they were kind of short up on that. And then after that, my dad wasn't going to let me, go anywhere where I wasn't playing quarterback.
So did you at any point, you said you wanted to go to Texas, like, did you at any point think, maybe I'm willing to go to Texas and play safety?
Yeah, there was definitely a point in time where I was thinking that. And then once I started getting some better offers and once I saw that, some other teams around the country were going to recruit me to play quarterback, that's when it kind of faded away.
So you go into Texas A&M, you redshirt your first year. Nobody has any clue who you are. SEC comes calling, and everything changes in terms of the attention that A&M gets. Your first game, you're on the field against Florida. What do you remember from that first game? Because, I mean, you're a redshirt freshman. You've never played in a game before, and suddenly you're going up against a Will Muschamp defense in the SEC in one of the biggest signature games in the history of Texas A&M.
Yeah, it really is a lot of a blur, that first game. You know, I can sit back through the Heisman season and, like, really remember a lot of that season. And the first game of the season is the one where I really can't remember all the plays, all the touchdowns, and all the, like, the key moments of the game. But to be on College game day, the first game of the season, your first time playing in the SEC is your first start. It was electric. You know, I mean, there was 90,000 people there. You know, a great Florida team that had a great defense that year. A team that ended up going to the Sugar Bowl, I think they went to that year, and I think we ended up losing by like 3 points. But you know, what an experience to kind of start off.
And slowly as that season went on, I watched every game, the light bulb kind of clearly came on with your offense. Cliff Kingsbury's the offensive coordinator, Kevin Sumlin, and you guys started to hit on all cylinders. In particular, though, there are a couple of moments that made you almost an overnight sensation. One, you went out dressed up as Scooby-Doo. How did that costume come to happen? Did you realize that it was going to be anywhere near as popular as it was in the time that, like, it was everywhere on the internet? We put it up on Outkick, like, and almost overnight you became a sensation. I think you were dancing with a girl in lingerie dressed as Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
like, did you know when you were out that was any chance that was going to go viral like it did?
No, because I think, you know, at the point in time, you know, I just played a couple games. We were just a bunch of kids going out getting drunk on the weekend. It wasn't anything that we really thought of. We were just trying to have fun and enjoy the time that we had in college for sure. But you know, a pretty funny moment to look back on for sure.
How did you pick the Scooby-Doo costume? Were there other options?
No, I think it was just in somebody's closet, and then, you know, we were all just going to go out normally, and I just decided to go for it.
So shortly after that, you go on the road against Alabama, #1 team in the country. You're a redshirt freshman, Nick Saban defense. They're coming off Alabama as a huge win on the road at LSU. You guys are like a 17-point underdog. Nobody's giving you a chance. And you come in and go up 21-0, make a couple of iconic plays. You're fumbling the football, you're rolling out, you're throwing. What was that experience in that game like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a moment that I'll never forget. You know, there's 100,000 plus people there to go up and be able to score, and the way that how efficient our offense was for that first half against a defense that is known for what it's known for, and a team that is usually as dominant as they are. To go out and really jump on them like that, I think it was a little bit demoralizing to them and something that doesn't usually happen to an Alabama team. But, you know, for us, we had been playing really, really good. We lost 2 games that year, won the first game of the season to Florida, and then won, I think, probably like 3 weeks earlier to LSU. And then after that, we felt like we just got on a little bit of a roll. And, you know, that was probably, you know, obviously the cliche, like, high point of, you know, my career. But just to be able to go in there and do that, it's something that'll stick with me forever.
You win 29-24. If I remember correctly, you're a redshirt freshman and you're not allowed to talk to the media.
Yeah.
Right. So as you're on the field singing with the A&M and the A&M fans who were there, did you realize how much that win was going to change your life at that point in time? Or when did you, like, realize how big it was? Because a lot of times you're 19 years old, you don't really know, you know, you got a national CBS audience, the number of people who are watching. You basically, from that point on, were a celebrity. Like, that made you a superstar. Did you realize it there as you were running off the field?
No, not as we were still in the stadium. Whenever we got outside the stadium, and there was probably 10,000 fans, like, around our buses, and it was just a really, really different occurrence than we had been traveling everywhere else, going to different games and things like that. And that's when, you know, we're flying back into College Station, and they had the lights on the stadium on, and like, you could see the bars whenever you're flying in. The bars are packed, and there's people waiting for us to land. And then, you know, the week after, like, going to classes on campus and stuff, not being able to walk to class, that's when, you know, I kind of knew that things were going to be a lot different.
Did you immediately think this is awesome, or did you see the downside that could potentially – because I think most people who become famous kind of work their way up to it, right? Like, maybe you're a musician and you have a hit song, but you've been grinding away for a long time, and you've been grinding away at football for a long time. But suddenly at 19 years old, everybody knows you, right? And you get better and better. You win the Heisman Trophy, which makes you even bigger of a superstar. Did it seem real?
Probably a little bit surreal for the beginning. You know, at the beginning, I didn't really realize much of it. I thought it's obviously fresh. It's obviously new. You obviously seem to like it a little bit. But, you know, as time goes on, you start to have a little bit of no privacy, especially when you're in college. You know, it becomes a little bit of a hassle.
So you're 19, you win the Heisman Trophy, and then you have an off season. Everybody's talking about how good you're going to be almost immediately. Unlike, say, with Cam Newton and maybe somewhat with Tim Tebow, everybody's talking about your NFL career already. And then you have NCAA issues. First of all, what do you think about the NCAA?
I mean,
is there anything you hate more than the NCAA?
Probably not. Probably not. I dealt with my little incident with them, and probably one of my favorite moments that I had throughout college was getting the fuck out of that meeting and not having to deal with them anymore.
What was that meeting like with the NCAA?
It was intense. They went through.
They grilled you.
Grilled me from everything from clothes I had been wearing in pictures to certain
accounts,
things, bank accounts, everything.
Did you feel like you were like a criminal being investigated? I mean, I've heard from people who sit across the table from the NCAA. Again, you're 19 years old. A lot of other guys have gone through it for signing autographs. It's kind of a crazy system, right? That they would sit there and grill you like you just committed the crime of the century over autographs.
Yeah, and pretty much with not a lot of due process either. They kind of have the final judgment. There is no really much evidence. They can kind of just prosecute on whatever they want. So, even when it was all said and done, they came back with wanting to suspend me for like a half a game, and I was pretty reluctant to even take that, but at the end of the day, if they kind of got them off my ass, I was okay with that.
Let me go back to the I think it was the Cotton Bowl. You guys dominate Oklahoma. If there were a 14 playoff, I've argued for a long time that you guys were the team at the end of the year that was peaking at the right moment, that I think you might have won the national championship. Do you feel like that 2012 Texas A&M team was good enough to win a national championship if there had been a playoff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'd ended up knocking off the eventual national champion that year in a game where they played in the national championship. Yeah, on the road in a national championship game where they absolutely destroyed Notre Dame. So you look at the 4 teams that were playing that year, I think we were right there playing as good as anybody, it was a shame for us that we didn't have some of the pieces coming back for the next year. We would have been able to make another really good run in it.
One of the things that's interesting to me is I've heard guys who have like super runs like you did. You win the Heisman Trophy, your team goes 11-2. It's unexpected, and that ride is a lot more fun than the ride where people expect you to be good. Your redshirt sophomore year, you come out, you have an incredible game against Alabama, 49-42, one of the greatest games individually in the history of the SEC. You put up even better stats passing-wise. A lot of people don't realize that in your redshirt sophomore year than you did your redshirt freshman year. Was it as much fun, or did you already feel like you had the weight of the world on your shoulders by that year?
It was almost like a national championship or bust type season for us because of what we had accomplished the year before. So I felt like, after the Alabama game, it's a 1 versus 4 ranked game. You can get away with probably losing one. There's been eventual national champions that have gone ahead and lost one game at the beginning of the year, especially early. And then we play Auburn the next week. And Auburn was a team we had beat, I think, 60-0 the year before on the road, and they're coming to our place. And this is the year that Auburn made an incredible run to go to the national championship game. And we ended up losing by, I think, 7 points and had a chance to score really late. But, after you kind of lose two, it was almost really deflating for us. With still having a tough schedule towards the end of the season, still have to go to LSU, still have to go to Missouri that year on the road. So I just feel like after we lost to Auburn, it was almost like all the air went out.
You finished the year, and then you decided to go pro. I was at your workout on A&M's campus. The president, George Bush, showed up. Barbara Bush showed up. Like, it was a total unbelievable environment of insanity. What was that like for you as you got ready for the NFL draft? And then, like you said, inside of that bubble, like suddenly George Bush Sr. and Barbara Bush and their dog like roll up on golf carts to watch you perform for scouts there. What did that feel like for you?
Yeah, it was cool. I didn't expect it to be, as big a deal as it was, because at the same time, this was the workout that I needed to hopefully go and get drafted in the first round. So. And
you had a flawless workout.
Yeah, I felt like it was really, really, really good. Good for me, good for Mike Evans as well, as a guy who ended up with that performance, getting drafted number 7 overall. So, for 2 guys who were good friends to be able to go out and get drafted in the first round was cool for us.
You got drafted 22nd. You had to sit there in the room for a while. The Cleveland Browns take you. What do you wish you could go back to Johnny Manziel sitting on the day he gets drafted and tell him today? You're only 24 now, which is wild to think about, how it seems like you've been on the national stage. Probably for you, it seems like a lot more than 5 years since you initially played for A&M in 2012. What do you wish you could go back and tell yourself the night you were getting drafted?
Yeah, probably just to be a little bit more patient. I felt like it had to happen early. Just sitting there in the draft room is really uncomfortable, especially if you're sitting for a long time. But at the same time, just be patient with it and that it's all going to work out in the right way. I felt like I was maybe at the time like texting back and forth with some coaches, kind of seeing where I was going to go, certain things like that. And at the same time, I probably just wish I would have just sat back and just, relax a little bit more.
What about your tenure at Cleveland? If you could go back, first of all, do you want to play in the NFL again?
Yeah, I mean, it's a goal of mine. I think, obviously being 24, I feel like I still have some time, and, that won't be my last opportunity. So I'm looking for a new situation to be able to.
What are you doing now to stay in shape and continue to improve and improve and get better?
Yeah, I'm treating this like I would, pretty much during the off season, like I was on a team, like I was on a roster, still working out with a lot of guys in LA that were still on rosters, a lot of receivers, still pretty much training and treating a normal day of doing everything like I would be in the building as much as I can.
You said you threw some with Odell Beckham Jr. quite a bit working out. Obviously, he's maybe the best receiver in the NFL, certainly a top 5 guy. What kind of feedback do you get from those receivers? Do they think you've got the goods to be an NFL quarterback?
Yeah, I still have a lot of friends that are still pulling for me, still, go back to their respective teams and try to help me out as much as they can. The SEC, the guys that are in the SEC have a really good bond, and especially the guys that you played with or, played against that, made those years in college a lot of fun. So, I'm really pulling for him this year. I think the Giants will be a really good team this year.
So we get a lot of questions about how do you get back into the league. A lot of guys get different chances. How does that process work? Do coaches reach out to your agent? Do they reach out to you directly? What kind of process do you go through at 24 to get another chance in the league? Do you consider the CFL? Like, who gives you advice, and how do you decide the pathway to take?
Yeah, GMs or coaches have reached out to me. They reach out to my agents, a little bit of both. My agent will go out and reach out to other people as well. And as far as like looking at a CFL route, it's definitely something that I've looked into. If I wouldn't have had as much interest as I've had this year as talking with some teams and seeing how things have played out, I probably would have taken that route. Because at the same time, I don't want to be out of football too long without playing. It's not fun to sit around kind of on a Saturday and a Sunday as you've been playing those days for the past 6 years of your life. So at the same time, there's only so much time I can sit around and watch college football.
You're a huge college football fan. That's what's interesting, and also an NFL fan. Like you, in addition to being really good at both, Heisman Trophy winner, you sit around and watch games. Colin Kaepernick is the big story right now, right? He's a guy who thinks that he deserves to be signed, and there's a lot of people who believe that as well. Do you think Kaepernick is good enough to start in an NFL season? Should he get a chance?
Yeah, I mean, even if he's not going to start, he's good enough to be on a roster for sure. I mean, that's a guy that if we go back 5 years, the Ravens are playing the Niners in the Super Bowl, and the next year they're playing the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game. So that's a guy who's got a team, to that point, multiple years, who may have had a couple down years this past couple years, but at the same time, he has a track record of proving, that he can go out and play. So, I don't think his career is done. I think once all the other stuff quiets down a little bit, he'll be okay, even though last year was a little bit of a bizarre year with everything that went on.
How has your life changed since things didn't work out in Cleveland? Like, you seem like you've gotten control of your life in some ways and tried to, kind of be the master of your life again. What have you changed about the way that you're living? You're out in LA, you're working out. What's different now at 24 than 22 or 21?
Yeah, probably just getting myself away from like a little bit of a college lifestyle, some friends that I had, and just a little bit more getting away from the recklessness a little bit much. I feel like, my time in Cleveland, I'm not necessarily sure that's exactly how I would have drawn up me getting drafted or where I was going to end up going to or the exact situation. But at the same time, those were kind of the cards that I was dealt, and now I kind of have to live with what happened and, accept the responsibility of everything that's gone on in the past and be able to put it behind me, because at the same time, dwelling on it and sitting on that's not going to really help me getting back to where I want to be.
Is that what coaches want to hear and GMs want to hear, that you're a different guy than the one who was in Cleveland? Is that what they ask you about when they call you?
Yeah, a little bit. They just want to see what I've kind of been up to and what's been going on, and seeing, that I'm back in football, that I'm back to doing certain things. Because this is what I love to do. I love to play. I love to be around the game. So, I think that's the biggest question. You
got drafted in baseball. Tim Tebow is now playing baseball. Any baseball teams ever reach out and say, hey, are you interested in, Tebow, I don't know if I'm sure you're paying attention. He's batting over 300 in single A, he's 29, and he had a long roster of not playing. You were a pretty high draft pick, relatively speaking, out of high school. Any baseball teams ever reach out? Yeah, a couple. I've talked with the San Diego Padres, the team that drafted me a little bit, and then I have a good friend who's a minority owner in the Rangers. If I get to a point where I'm not going to play football or anything like that, and I still feel like I could go make a run at it, maybe. But for right now, I think I'll leave that to Tebow. So, when you, what's funny about that is, in the SEC, we had back-to-back-to-back. We had Tebow, who was like a rock star level quarterback that I had never seen before, And then we had Cam Newton and all the NCAA controversy, and he goes 14-0 and wins a title. And I said, man, we'll never see a season like Cam Newton. And then you come in, like almost like all three, bang, bang, bang. Do you have a relationship with any of those guys? Do you feel like a kinship based on the way that you kind of took the SEC over at the quarterback position and put up statistics, honestly, that nobody's ever equaled since between the three of you guys?
Yeah, I've got a chance to know Tim, obviously going to New York for the Heisman the past couple of years. He's a guy that's always been extremely, extremely cool. I remember watching, being a kid in middle school and high school, was watching Tebow come up and play at Florida, and what a run that was. And I don't know if there's ever been anybody, between me and Cam, we had a good 1 year, solid year run there. But at the same time, to do it over the, amount of years that they did with the talent that they had at Florida is, I don't really know if it'll ever be seen again.
What does the Heisman mean to you now? You get it at 19. You just mentioned Tebow won it, Cam won it, Mariota, who you knew, you have a lot of kinship with guys over the past several years. Does it mean more to you now than it did maybe even when you were 19? Do you think it might mean more when you're 34 or 44 and you kind of can contextualize that achievement?
Yeah, I think it'll mean a little bit more down the road. It means a ton to me right now, but at the same time, I think it really was the world to me, whenever I was in college, because growing up playing NCAA video games, obviously trying to go out and win the Heisman in a video game every year, and to have it happen in real life, it was crazy. It was mind-blowing for the first couple of years, and now, I want to do something to make sure that that's not the only thing that I've done in my football career.
If you never played football again, what would you do?
I'd do something involved with sports. I can't get away from it. So, I've had to ask myself that a little bit as of late over the past year, but at the same time, I'd want to be involved in sports in some way, whether it's coaching, whether it's doing something like that. So I think that'd be my route.
Where would you want to coach? High school, college, pros? I mean, what to you would have the most intrigue?
Probably college.
College. And what do you think your experience in college would help you? Like, can you imagine, would it be difficult for 30-year-old Johnny Manziel to coach 19-year-old Johnny Manziel?
Of course.
Would you drive yourself insane?
Of course. I was really hard-headed. I look back right now and think about, how big of just a kid I was, and a lot of regrets that I have, especially with my second year in college, not treating it kind of the way that I did my first year. But at the same time, I think I would have been really, really hard-headed to listen to myself a couple years down the road.
What about Kevin Sumlin? He got criticized some for being too lenient on you. Other people said, but I love Kevin Sumlin. I know you guys have a good relationship. What did he mean to you at A&M? Did he handle you about as well as 19 and 20 and 21-year-old Johnny Manziel could have been handled?
Yeah, I think he did. I think obviously the way that everybody treated me the second year was a lot different than the first, and I think the reason that I got to where I was because of things that happened the first year and because of how he was hard on me, especially my first year. So I wish him the best. I know he's on a little bit of a hot seat right now, and I know that a kind of a lull of 8-5 or whatever their record has been for the past couple of years in the SEC just kind of doesn't cut it. But at the same time, I think that these programs take a lot of time to turn around. I think he's done a really good job, and I think it'll just take time. So, hopefully they're patient with him, even though I probably don't see that happening if they don't pull it out this year.
You're engaged now. Some people say, that finding a significant other can really kind of change your life. Has being engaged changed your life? Do you think that makes you, just a little bit more stable? Is that what you're looking for? Kind of experience that. I know when I got engaged, I got engaged when I was 25, and it changed. Like, the life changes a little bit when you get engaged. You start to think about getting married. Do you feel like your life has changed in that way?
Absolutely. I feel like it's been a huge safety net for me, because it's not all the time probably thinking exactly the right way. So it's nice to have another person there, being able to kind of rein me in a little bit and be able to help me out, because it's something that I've looked for a long time. It's been a great situation for me to be in, for sure.
What's your relationship like with your family now? Are you guys good? I know that family is incredibly important to you and has been over the years, and everybody's got drama in their family. Yours just happens to end up being public because of your lifestyle. What's your relationship like with your family now?
Oh, it's good. It's hard for them. As much bullshit as I go through on a daily basis, I think, on a smaller scale, they go through it too. So, I don't know if I'm always as aware of that as I should be, but at the same time, my family's always been there for me. From the days that I was playing, they've always supported, and they've always been really great. So, I'm just trying to get back to a place where they can come watch me play again.
And that place where they come watch you play again, social media. I was scheduled here to come and talk about the impact of social media. To me, your career is fascinating because you came of age right as social media was exploding, right? Everybody's got an opinion on Facebook. Everybody's got an opinion on Twitter. I like to say on our radio show, there are a few guys where if I say their name followed by is and just give out the phone number, we'll have open lines, like loaded lines, right? I can say LeBron James is, and he's a guy you know a little bit. Open, like everybody's got an opinion. They can fill in an adjective. Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow, like a lot of these guys, everybody has an opinion over. Was social media good or bad for you? And I know you're still on social media, but you've left it a couple of times and you've interacted and then you've left it again. What has that experience been like starting at the age of 19 as you blew up on the social media frontier? Yeah,
I think it's a slippery slope. I think it could be really, really good, and at the same time, it could be really bad. It kind of takes away your privacy a little bit, especially now with Snapchat and with all this other stuff that's going on.
Because people will find you out at a bar sometimes and just say, "Oh, here's Johnny Manziel," and you'll literally you check your phone and there's notifications blowing.
Yeah, 1,000%. But at the same time, just the way that obviously with the way that your job, your news has been able to travel through social media. I think it's a really good platform. But at the same time, for some athletes, if you're not really able to handle, especially if you're young, I think that was a big reason why my popularity was as big as it was, is because of the social media age. I was sitting in college with 1 million followers on Twitter and being able to have that platform at the tip of your fingers whenever you want. It's dangerous.
Did you read the mentions? Would you go through and see what people were sending to you?
No, not anymore. I probably did when I started in college, and then after the enough fuck yous, you're queer type of thing, you probably just get a little bit.
Because people may not realize it, but it's amazing to me because back in the day, and that's why I think it's interesting that if you coached in college one day, it used to be that you were kind of a member of a team and there weren't that many voices that were able to get to you, right? You may hear the crowd and may see somebody out at a bar or on campus in a classroom, but nowadays, everybody can reach you at all moments. And I guarantee you, if I went into my phone right now and checked it, everything that you just said, people are saying it about me right now. And all I've done, you guys are sitting here, we're just having a conversation. There's people probably on Periscope and Facebook right now teeing off on me, right? And you. And all we're doing is having a normal conversation. Do you think it's good? I really kind of am fascinated by, because your career really mirrors the rise of social media. And I've made this argument that to other people, I'm old enough where social media didn't really exist for me. So I became an adult. I felt comfortable in my own skin. Nobody else was defining me. For everybody like you and the younger kids out there, social media in many ways is defining people, maybe before you're even able to define yourself.
Yeah, I think you look at some of these kids now, say basketball recruits. These guys are in high school.
Yes.
These guys are in high school with 50,000, 100,000 followers.
Look, one of the bald kids has
a million followers,
yeah.
And I can't imagine how that would be in high school. You feel like when you get into college and you're getting interviewed at times and you're a little bit older, you're able to handle it. So I couldn't imagine being that young and really having to deal with it and click on one button and be able to read what all kinds of people are saying about me and really be able to handle that and not have it affect me, especially growing up.
Which fan base in the SEC was the toughest on you?
Probably LSU.
Why do you think LSU hated A&M particularly, or hated you?
I think it just goes back to a little bit of a rivalry before we got into the SEC, but at the same time, that was the only team to go back 2 years and beat us both years.
Right.
So I felt like they had that little bit of an upper hand. I would also say Ole Miss. We went into Ole Miss in Oxford 2 years in a row and came out with 2 sneaky victories. So they have to be pretty pissed off that they didn't get the best of us those years, at least one.
I appreciate, by the way, everybody watching us, everybody hanging out. We've got an incredible event going on here at the IFBC Workshop powered by SBR 17. I'm Clay Travis, Outkick the Show. We're talking to Johnny Manziel. What else would you like people to know? When I used to do depositions, at the end, I would always say, what question do you wish that I had asked you that I didn't give you an opportunity to answer? Is there anything you would want people to know about you at 24 years old as you look for another opportunity in the NFL that I haven't given you a chance to answer? Anything else? No,
I don't think so. I think, just one thing I do want to say is last night, everybody that came up, all the questions, everybody was extremely, extremely cool. I really enjoyed last night. As he was saying, I think it was a really cool event to be able to sit there and, get a chance to interact and talk a little bit. I think we're all here for a certain reason. It's all pretty cool. I'm looking forward to sitting up here and seeing some of the rest of the speakers today and really see what this thing entails, because I think it's really cool.
Last thing for you is sometimes there's a big disconnect between what people will say on social media and what they'll say face to face. I bet you see that all the time, because on social media people are like, oh, I hate Johnny Manziel, he's an asshole, fuck him. If they see you, they want a picture, right? Do you experience that difference between social media where people are like, I fucking hate Johnny Manziel, and then real life where people are like, you're at a bar, doesn't matter where you are, you're at the grocery store, anywhere, and they see you and they want a picture? It might be the same guy who said he fucking hated you on social media the day before.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know how much I would really be able to tell the difference, but at the same time, funny thing that I do get is some people just come up with brutal honesty, especially if you're in a bar. Some guy will just come up and just be like, you know what, you're a fucking dick. And I'll be like, all right, appreciate it.
Yeah, and sometimes, people might try and provoke you, right? You have a good sense of humor. We were talking earlier about you read the mailbag. Maybe I need to let you do the mailbag and respond to all the questions there. But you have a good sense of humor. I think that would help a little bit. But also, it's frustrating to anybody out here, guy or girl, if somebody does just attack you and they don't know you, right? Like, do you feel like you get attacked unfairly sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. But at the same time, if anybody gets a chance to really be around me for an extended period of time, I'm a pretty laid back, I'm a pretty chill, easygoing guy. So, most of the time I don't let it get to me. Anybody has their bad day where I can catch them on a little bit of a hot note. But at the same time, it kind of is what it is.
Controversies. I know I said last question, but I do think this is funny. Like, when I talk about social media, you were one of the first guys I remember who could just, like, you went to a Texas frat party and it turned into like a lead story on ESPN. Do you remember just sometimes looking up at the television and being like, how is that the #1 story in America? Like, how are they covering me this aggressively at 19 and 20 years old when you are arguing, like, on some level, you should just be able to be a typical college kid? And most college kids were able to have typical lifestyles maybe before social media.
Yeah, I think it was a really crazy ordeal, especially when I was in college. But I look at some of the media today and still even see stories like, how the hell is that? How is that relative?
Like Lonzo Ball and
especially
Ball.
with his family, like some of the things they're doing is like, why does shit like that even matter? But at the same time, if people are clicking on it, people are looking into it, then it's making money for their business. So at the same time, that's what it really comes down to.
Drama sells, there's no doubt, and one of the most entertaining and dramatic players in the history of college football and the NFL. I hope you get another chance. I appreciate you hanging with us,
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
That's Johnny Manziel.